I have to imagine that for most people, the restroom at the North Hollywood metro station is probably not somewhere that they think of with great fondness or happy memories. But for me, I will never ever forget that place. I stepped out of the interesting self-cleaning process that was happening at about 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I was about 75 miles into walking 100 miles across LA. And all I saw was an inquisitive look from two gang members doing a BMX exchange and a whole lot of shift workers coming on and off the bus. And there was a huge planter with a palm tree in front of me, and I decided to take that opportunity to apply more menthol cream to my burning knees. They were screaming at me. So I took my backpack and took it off and sat up against this planter and rolled these exact leggings up and applied the menthol powder to my knees. And I think I probably let out like this audible sigh because a gentleman that was sleeping nearby, there was a lot of people sleeping there, and he sat up and looked at me and said, "Could I have some?" In my ignorance/innocence, I thought he thought it was moisturizer. So I said, oh, it's pain cream. And he went, "Yeah, I know. Could I have some?" And so I said, of course you can. And I got him, I was like, "You roll your pants up." And he had those like thick pants on. So he was holding them up with both hands. And then he looked at me with like, "What do I do?" And he wanted to put his hand out. And I said, I'll rub it on. So he looked at me like, are you sure? And I just said, "Of course I'll do it." And he's holding his pants and I rubbed the menthol powder on his right knee. And I giggled and I said, "Look, our knees are totally the same. They're matching," because my knee was so swollen and his knee was so swollen. They felt the same. They were the same size. His were very black and mine were very white. But besides that, we were exactly the same. And we sat together for a few minutes and talked, and I asked him his name, and he said his name was Dwayne. And we chatted, and eventually I realized I couldn't stay there forever. I had a walk to do. So I thanked Dwayne for this beautiful moment, and we both rolled down our pants and made sure we didn't get the menthol powder totally everywhere. And I said goodbye to everybody watching us, confused. As I walked away, I had the biggest smile on my face, and I was also crying. Because in that moment, I had been trying to find a reason to stop walking. When I was sitting in that smelly bathroom, all I could think was, what could I possibly tell everyone on social media that would explain why I stopped? Because I'm in so much pain and I don't want to do this. But when I met Dwayne and I walked away, this feeling settled in me that, yeah, today our knees are matching. But tonight I'll go home and I'll put my knee in an ice bath. And tomorrow I'll lie on the couch and use my knee as a fun thing in all my Zoom meetings to like humble brag about this walk I just did. And in a week I'll have therapy for my knee, and it'll become something I talk about at a party, in a couple of months, or at some talk about my knee and how I got it. And he won't. He doesn't have an ice bath, and he doesn't have a couch, and he probably doesn't have people to tell about the knee that was swollen. And of course, my neuroscience nerd kicked in, and I realized the part of us that processes pain, the anterior cingulate, is the same part that processes social connectivity and isolation. And Dwayne doesn't have anybody to take away the pain, but in a couple of hours, I'll be walking with somebody who will take my mind off it. And it's because of Dwayne that I finished the walk. I don't think I would have finished it if I hadn't met Dwayne. And I finished that walk for Dwayne and everybody else that I'd seen with swollen limbs and wheelchairs and just waiting to get on a bus in pain. I guess I should explain how I came to be walking 100 miles across LA. The idea came to me when I was done. Sitting in Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting of well-meaning people who wanted to come together and make a change and fix our city, and we're going to do something with innovation and my tech idea or my startup. We're going to fix LA. And something was missing to me, because when I looked at those faces in the squares, I really wanted to know, are you really here because you care about the people and what these problems are causing them, or you just don't want to feel uncomfortable about the problems anymore? Because we can't fix these problems if we aren't experiencing them. We can't change our city looking at it. We have to lift it up from within. You have to at least know somebody and their story if you want to change their life. You have to walk a mile in their shoes. So that's what I decided to do. I was going to walk 100 miles. And I wanted to listen, and I wanted to watch, and I wanted to hear and understand and visit with the people that we spend way too much talking about and not enough time talking with. I also had this idea, because you can't take the non-profit business owner out of me, that I was also going to raise $100,000. 100 miles, $100,000 will be easy, it'll be cute, everyone will love it. My vision of what this walk would look like was, I really did have this image of me walking down the streets of LA with throngs of people meeting me, and we'd take selfies at the corner, and I'd have a t-shirt with a QR code, donate here, and people would be watching the news and see where we were going to be next, and the store owners would be excited to have us come in, and it couldn't have been further from what actually happened. I learned so much in those 3 days, and they were not easy lessons to learn. And I would like to share some of those lessons with you now. People will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid making eye contact with you. I decided on the first day that I was going to say hi and how are you to everyone I met, which became almost like a chasing game. I had to catch people's eyes because nobody wanted to look at me. In fact, one guy, I was walking down the Long Beach pathway, and a guy was riding his bike, and he saw me from a good 100 yards away, and he was not using his phone. As he got closer, he pulled his phone out and lost control of his bike because he didn't want to make eye contact with me. It almost became like a safety mechanism by the end, because when you say hi to somebody, they get such a fright that whatever they were thinking of doing to you in the dark, they no longer want to do. There are people all across LA running businesses out of their driveways. There's drapery stores, there's massage parlors, there's car fixing people, there's taco stands, there's so many businesses, and I just kept on thinking there should be some sort of Yelp for these people. Smiling at a stranger or having a stranger smile at you can completely take away any negativity or any pain you were feeling. And what's super cool is we all have the power to do that. Okay. If you're ever feeling a little tired and need a bit of a pick-me-up, I highly recommend pouring menthol powder down your pants. On the second day, it was a bit damp, or it was raining everywhere else in LA except where I walked the whole day. It was very kind of cool, but still damp. And as you may know, if you've gone for a long walk before, when it's damp a little bit, you need a bit of powder. And I only had menthol powder. So I didn't particularly fancy the idea of doing that behind a bush. So I waited until I got to the Compton Jack in the Box. When I saw it coming off the pathway, I went to the bathroom there, And I positioned myself, of course, because I've never really poured menthol powder down my pants before. And I positioned myself over the toilet and sort of poured it down the back, hoping it would go in all the places I needed it to. And what ended up happening is I left this ring of powder around the toilet, and all I could think was the next person that's going to come in here is going to think this person did drugs in a weird way. But I should also warn you, and this is the bluest this moment gets, menthol powder doesn't discriminate. So like if you pour it down the back, it's just going to go everywhere, if you know what I mean. People in South LA, when you're walking on the street, will offer you a ride. No one else offered me a ride anywhere else in LA. The land that I walked on was the land that was originally the home, and still is the home, of the Tongvan and Tataviam people. I'm ashamed that I didn't think of that until a couple of months after the walk. And I'm sad that there weren't signs everywhere or some sort of indication that this is Tataviam land or Tongvan land. And it makes me think that, we so often talk about the rich history of Europe and how LA doesn't really have all those thousands of years, but we do. The Tongvan and Tataviam people were here 8,000 years ago. And I wish that I'd thought of them when I was walking, and I promise that I'll be thinking of them the rest of the time I live here in LA. You haven't quite worked out whether this lesson is that I should listen to the universe or not to dumpster dive. A week before my walk, I got new runners, because you should. If you're going on a fancy walk, you need fancy feet. And I threw my old runners out, and they had my orthotics in them. And when I realized, I ran down to the big dumpster and hoisted myself in. And then the top of the dumpster shut on me, breaking my ribs. Really hurt. And I got down, I thought, it's okay, I'm still going to do this walk, despite what my mum said. I'm going to do this walk. A day into the walk, my orthotics were hurting my feet so much that I was bleeding across the base of them, and I had to throw them out in a trash can. Maybe I should have listened to the universe. When you are in profound levels of pain, your brain does this amazing thing. It makes you go inside and worry about yourself so much. But at the same moment, also, every single person that you see on the street, you wonder, are they feeling pain like this? I wish they weren't. I hope they're not. I learned I should never judge a white Hummer in a dead-end street in Inglewood. I had been walking down this long street in Inglewood for an hour or so and thought that I would be able to get through to another street when I came up to this huge fence that had just been built and Apple Maps hadn't caught up. And I stood there looking at this fence thinking, I do not want to go back another hour. And over to my side was a white Hummer with loud music coming out at the bottom of it and smoke coming out at the top of it. And I sort of had this immediate oh no, this is not going to end well. And the front door of the Hummer opened and a guy stuck his head out, big guy, and he said, "There's a hole." And I went, "Sorry?" And he goes, "There's a hole." And I was like, oh God, I really don't want to make him mad. "Sorry, I can't understand you." And he said, "There's a hole." And the woman in the back seat opened her door and said, "He said there's a hole in the fence." And they pointed at the hole, and I climbed through the fence, waving at them, and they're waving back. Should check my bias. Bodies are incredible things, and so are minds, because I would be lying in bed. And look, I'm a 1 or 2 peas a night kind of girl. And I would be lying there being like, I really need to go to the bathroom. And I would be in so much pain that my body was like, no way, you're not getting out of this bed. You cannot move out of this bed. And yet, at 6 a.m., my mind, when that alarm went off, did whatever it needed to get me out of that bed and convince me to walk 37 miles on the same legs that couldn't carry me to the bathroom. It's not okay that there are people in our city sleeping in dog cages. On the second day when I was walking up the Long Beach path, I saw a dog cage that had a blanket and it had a welcome mat in front of it and a woman sleeping inside of it. Have we really dehumanized people so much that it seems acceptable to sleep in a cage? And what's silly is when I was writing this, I thought, well, what's better, a cardboard box or, I can't even believe I'm thinking this. There are billboards of beautiful people all over Los Angeles. Every part of LA I walked, there was beautiful people selling totally unattainable items. And what struck me was also at every bus stop, well, not everyone, but so many of the bus stops or corners of the street, I saw beautiful people with the same faces, those same amazing eyes that you see on the billboards, all the same facial structures. The only difference is they don't have the money and the access to get them on a billboard, or the plastic surgery to get them on a billboard. When you have walked 37 miles and you get to drink cold water, there's nothing better. From now on, I'm always going to carry cold water or water in my car for the next heat wave, just in case I come across someone that might need some. Brains need to rest. It is incredible what happens when you let your brain rest. I would go 3-hour stints where I'd put my phone away and there wouldn't be billboards and there wouldn't be signs and there wouldn't be conversations or music or anything. And it was like my brain was dancing inside of my body. It would come up with all these weird ideas. This talk came from me being left alone with my thoughts, so I'm sorry. But our brains need that. It was literally, I was like, I know, brain, isn't this fun? Oh, I wish we did it more. Oh yeah, you really shouldn't text when you're walking, especially when you're tired. I was walking down that same street about to meet the Hummer when I came up to an uneven part of the ground and I was texting somebody that's here tonight. And I flipped over, but did that weird when you have the headphones thing and you pull and it like yanked, and I did a weird thing and I kind of caught myself and then I just went flat. But what was sweet was there was a man in a car nearby and he came running over. He's like, oh, are you okay? And he helped me up. And it made me giggle that there's some things that are so universal that after he checked I was okay, both of us looked at the phone and went, is it broken? This is not a promotion for Arts Bridging the Gap, but when I came across art, every time I came across art in our city, even me knowing all the data about how it reduces crime and it creates pro-social moments, it felt Incredible. I wanted to turn to everybody and be like, look, isn't that beautiful? Don't you love the colors? Isn't it nice? I wish we had art on every corner in our street to create moments where people could share something together. I learned that the friendliest strangers live in Watts. We've all seen the creek beds and the rivers of Los Angeles that run through the valley. They run through South LA as well. And in South LA and in the Compton Creek area, they're full of trash and toxic waste and a smell that you cannot even breathe in. And there are houses that run all the way along it. And I'm talking miles and miles of a stench and dead carcasses of cats and rats and half animals that you step around. It's so obvious what parts of our city get care. And yet we judge people for acting like no one cares or is watching them in certain areas of LA. In every park that I passed in LA, there was someone working out. Go humans. When you're out alone on the street, you notice the people that you don't hear from more than you might want to admit. When you're in excruciating pain and you have to cross the street and you can't do it fast, no matter how much you try, when you're crossing that street slowly and the person that needs to turn makes a point of waving at you and saying it's okay, you fall in love with them instantly. There is trash all over our city. Every street corner, there is trash. Some streets, I would be feeling fine, I'd walk down them and there'd be trash everywhere, and I felt my whole body and my whole self just go to a dark place because of the trash around me. Also, there are no trash cans in our city. When you walk, if you get to walk up La Tierra Boulevard, some magical art magician has placed all these hearts and stars and swirls all the way up the pavement along this long line of campers and people that are sleeping in their, mobile homes. It's like someone came along and said, I don't need credit for this, but I just want you to have something nice to see when you step out in the morning. In the same way that when you walk across the 4th Street Bridge in downtown LA, when you look down on what we normally drive through, right, that 110, when you drive through and you're like, oh, I've got to merge 3 lanes in 10 seconds. That thing, actually, when you look at it from above, it's this beautiful, winding maze of purple and yellow and cars. People are thinking about ways to make things look better and be better for us. I passed thousands of people experiencing homelessness on my walk, and not once did I feel scared. But I do think that by the way they looked at me, they were scared of me. There are not enough restrooms available to the public in Los Angeles. And look, I certainly have tummy problems. So I'm very conscious of this, but every time I came up to a Ralph's or a Starbucks, it was like an oasis for me. Every time I just counted down to when I'd see a facility, and a lot of the times they'd have that dreaded sign, restroom for customers only. I was able to talk my way into a lot of those restrooms, which made me think, what about the people that don't present like this, that need to use a bathroom? Made me think I kind of wanted to start a buddy program. One attainable looking person and one person that needs to use the bathroom could go together in Ralph's. It's just something, using a bathroom is just plain dignity, right? This is only for the Australians in the audience. But we do things when we're feeling pain or we're feeling alone. I think we all go back to our childhood memories. And when I was walking through LA, I was finding myself going, ooh, with every step. When I grew up, there was an Australian cricketer called Glenn McGrath. He was tall and handsome, a great fast bowler, and we just loved him, and terrible batter. But besides that, we loved him. And he would run up, this long run up, and the entire hundreds of thousands of people in the crowds and at home would go, ooh, Glenn McGrath, ooh, Glenn McGrath. And so I found myself walking through LA going, ooh, Glenn McGrath, ooh, Glenn McGrath. We get given choices, moments in our life where we can stay safe and avoid risking pain, or we can risk pain and get to experience something. I was walking down Sepulveda Boulevard early on my walk, so I was still conscious of my rib. Believe me, by day 3, my knees were winning. But on day 1, my rib was winning, and I was nervous because I saw this couple whose car had broken down on Sepulveda, middle of the street. And this gentleman was trying to push it, and he was this really skinny guy, and he had his big girlfriend driving the car. And I thought, oh, my rib, my mum's gonna kill me. And then I thought, no, I'll do it anyway. And I went and I helped him, and we moved it all the way to a McDonald's parking lot, and we were laughing and we had such a great time. And I told them about my walk, and they thought it like we were just having a moment. And I walked off, and my heart was so happy that I didn't even notice my rib. Going downhill hurts so much more than going uphill, which also is an interesting comment on life. There's a vacant firehouse on 5th and Wall Street in downtown LA. It is the coolest building, and it's been for sale forever. All I want to do is take that and turn that into a drop-in center for young people and arts. And once I noticed that one, I started noticing all across LA, there are so many vacant places in the middle of community areas where people could come together and do art or dance or sing or something if just someone would take the real estate agent and the person and put them together. There are levels of pain where you really need your chatty friends just to talk at you, just to say anything to distract you from the pain. And I am so grateful for my friends that knew me well enough to know now is the time to just talk at her. There's also a level of pain where you want no one to talk. For me, that was coming downhill Laurel Canyon Boulevard, mile 98, when I just turned to my wonderful friends and said, "Shut up, please." Oh. I hope that people in that level of pain on our streets get to have moments of silence. People in LA, and I'd imagine all around the world, are just trying to do their best. Everybody's just trying every day to do their best. I thought of this in a moment when I was walking up the Long Beach pathway, and I could see into the backyard of so many people. They had no idea I could see their lives going on. But I was looking and enjoying seeing people. There was one woman playing with her children. There was a guy, he was fighting some imaginary boxing opponent. There was someone getting chicken eggs. And so many people, because it was early, had that look. They were leaving their apartment and getting in their car with their coffee in hand with that look of like, here I go again. And I realized we don't know we're being watched by that person. We're just trying to do what we can do in the moment. I wish that was enough for all of us, amongst what we disagree on, how we look different, how we don't have the same experiences or opinions, but we all are just trying to do our best. I'm not very good at asking for help. And there were 2 points on the walk where I really needed something. And Joe had texted me and said, I'll come and meet you. What do you need? And I wanted to be the normal, like, I'm fine, just come you, just you. But I said I really, really could do with some lip gloss. When she turned up with that eucalyptus lip gloss, it was like Christmas. Putting that stuff on, I just wanted to like put it on the whole rest of the walk. And I still have it, and it makes me smile every time I put it on. The other moment was near the end of the walk. I really wanted to be looked after. I was so just completely done, and I needed to be looked after. And so I texted somebody and asked them if they could look after me. It was so hard to do. But what I got was a drive home and someone who ran the ice bath for me and undid my shoelaces and undressed me and pretended that I didn't smell as bad as I smelled, even though he insisted on rolling more deodorant on before he did it, and lifted me into the ice bath and sat on the toilet talking to me to distract me from how freaking cold that ice bath was. I don't remember really feeling that cared for, and I wouldn't have if I hadn't just asked for help. Everyone is so tired. That look that you've probably seen a couple of times when you've had a bad night and you look in the mirror and you're like, ooh, maybe today's not the day to go public. I saw so many people with that look, looking so tired. And I realized that I've seen that look in the Zoom rooms too. I've seen it everywhere. It was in the stores. People are so tired. It turns out, how are you, or how are you doing, is actually not the kindest question to ask somebody when it's obvious they're not doing well. I have had the absolute pleasure of getting to know a lot of people that live in a lot of the communities that I walked through, whether it's Watts or Compton or South LA. I've spent a lot of time there. And I have always gravitated towards these people, kind of more like family to me than a lot of other people. And I never really understood why I admired them or loved them so much. And it was in a moment in Watts when I went to visit my friend Maria that I realized what I think it is. Maria runs Watts HP Meat Market. She owns it now. Her husband owned it before, and her husband's father owned it before him. It's been in their family for so long, and she is so proud of that place. But it took me a long time to win over Maria. I had to go in there a number of times. She would give me this side eye, like, what do you want? What do you want to be in? Why are you in here? And we ended up painting a mural on her building, and I have spent days and days with her. And when I walked in, she gave me the same side eye, because that's how we do it. But she said, take whatever you want, whatever you need. She didn't even ask me what I was doing there. Just, do you need anything? Take it, whatever. And I said, Maria, I noticed that the mural is super tagged up. Why haven't you called me, or why didn't you call somebody? And her integrity, Maria's integrity, commitment to the community, she said to me, well, I can't call it in, or I can't call you, because if one of the gang members comes in and asks me if I ratted on them, I can't lie. Belonging is such an important feeling to all of us. We all just want to feel like we belong somewhere. I never expected to feel like I belonged so much as I did when I was in what's HP Meat Market. And Maria said to me, amongst a whole crowd of local people, she said, "Do you need to use the bathroom? Oh, you know where it is. You know where the secret key is, right?" And I was like, yeah, I do. I belong here. Turns out that song is really true. No one walks in LA. There were parts of LA when I was walking where people would ask me if I was lost. There's a really big difference between looking at somebody and seeing somebody. Seeing somebody takes appreciating something about them, maybe saying, "Hey, love your t-shirt," or, "Oh gosh, we have the same hair," or just something. It's interesting, I'm a word nerd as well, and the term respect, something that I think we all just want so badly. The Latin derivative of respect means to look twice or to look back. That's all it takes. When you mention certain parts of LA that you're going to or been through, some people will make a sort of face about it. And all that means is they clearly have never been there. I came across so many beautiful moments. It made me realize that everywhere in our city, in every second, there is a beautiful moment happening. I would see houses and homes that were so perfectly kept, every little detail thought of. In every suburb, there was so many houses like that. And there'd be these little moments of human perfection, like when I was in South Park waiting for a friend to come and walk with me, and I was putting band-aids on my feet, and a little girl was hanging out with her, what I assume were like her cousins and her grandpa. And she came over because she could see that I was having trouble. You know, when you're trying to do a band-aid and you got cream and it isn't sticking, and she wanted to help me. There's a saying that true friends are the ones that will stick by you in your darkest moments. I never understood how true that is. How much you value that friend that turns up in those moments. My friends that went out of their way in the morning or the night to drive me home. Doug and Daryl and Pete, who came and took me home or took me to send me off for the day. Or a friend that will take the time to walk with you for miles and Uber to their car. Emily and Manon and Pam and Ray and Joe and Barry and Robert. You never, ever know how much someone means to you until you need them. It turns out that doing things faster does not mean you're doing it better. I originally planned and told everyone that I was going to do this walk in 5 days. When I changed the plan to 3 days, I didn't actually tell anyone. I just kind of decided doing 33 miles a day instead of 20 is not smart. But it also did me, I think, probably out of really getting to connect more with people, to take more time to appreciate the magic in our city. I was so determined to get through the thing, to prove that I could do it, to get it done, to not notice, to move on to the next thing, that I really think I lost out by just trying to do something faster and cause myself a heck of a lot of pain. On that note, walking pain-free is such a luxury. It's a luxury we take for granted until we can't do it anymore. And there's so many of those. I mean, even in here tonight, most of us walked up these stairs pretty easily. Most of you are listening to this. You can see me. How lucky are we? Turns out that Secret's deodorant have been lying to us. In their commercials, they offer you 24-hour odor protection. I applied that Secret's deodorant at least 3 times each day. And judging by the look on that person's face who lifted me into the ice bath, they really need to rethink their branding. All it takes in life to remove the pain and the negative feelings is another person looking at you and saying, "Me too." For me, that happened with Dwayne. In that moment, nothing else mattered. It was just me and Dwayne. And everything was perfect. And we all have pains in common. Whether or not it's our knees, we all know heartbreak. We all know fear of losing a job. We all know the pain of losing someone we love. We all could sit with somebody for a minute and say, "Me too." I set a goal. I'm really good at that. I'm always setting new challenges. I didn't really meet my goal this time. Yes, I did finish the walk. In fact, I walked 103 miles, it turns out, which, by the way, would have saved me the Laurel Canyon had I thought about. But I didn't raise anywhere near the money I thought would be so easy to raise. There weren't throngs of people waiting to meet me at street corners. There were no store owners offering me water for social media moments, or there was no QR code or anything that I'd pictured. And I was left confused and I've said it too many times, so much pain. Not just physically. That took me a couple of months to get over. But the emotional pain and the confusion and the frustration and the anger wasn't part of what I signed up for. It was meant to be fun. And I was just left with this feeling of none of this makes sense. It doesn't make sense that there are the most beautiful people all around LA that will never get to experience how special they could be because of the part of the city they were born into. It doesn't make sense that there are so many people avoiding other human eye contact because of the pain they're feeling. It doesn't make sense that so many of the people that I asked to join me, or the people who wanted to come out changed their mind because it's too hard to look at this stuff anymore. It doesn't make sense that there are so many systems set up in our huge city that are meant to solve the issues of trash and homelessness and infrastructure, and they're not working. It doesn't make sense that there's so many beautiful people wanting to make a difference, and they try something and it doesn't work, and so they stop. And all I could think up to close until tonight was maybe just life doesn't make sense, and that's what I need to accept. I don't want to accept that. And maybe the lesson for me is that even when the big things don't seem to make sense, and even when you as one person can't change all the big things, you can smile at somebody. You can say hi. You can wave someone on in traffic. You can pick up some trash and carry it for a minute or two until you find the trash can. You can offer to help someone when they're clearly in pain. You could do so many little things that would actually make a real difference. And then maybe if we all did a few of those, maybe things would start making a little bit more sense. And here's where I share the hardest lesson for me to learn from all of this. I know now that I am really, really tired. I'm exhausted, not just from the walk, but being in a city like ours and seeing the things we see every day is exhausting because I know I'm not alone. I've seen those faces in the Zoom rooms. I've seen what happens when you invite people to talk about things that are not okay. It's too much. We're all exhausted. I've learned that we have to take care of ourselves first. And while we're doing this, while we're being us in these worlds trying to make a difference, we also need to make a difference for ourselves. Because I believe that the pain that we see on our street isn't just caused by what we're not doing to take care of others. It's caused by the care we're not giving ourselves. We have to give ourselves the love and the kindness and the patience that we wish to see on our streets. We have to put the menthol cream on our own knees before we put it on someone else's. Because we all deserve to get up in the morning and be excited with a spring in our step that doesn't require pouring menthol powder down your pants. We deserve to be happy to see each other and to smile at each other in a way that is genuine and true, not because we're wanting to change something, just because there's a beautiful human in front of us that deserves a smile. So I'm going to start taking better care of myself. Maybe not deciding to walk 100 miles in 3 days again. And I encourage you to do the same thing. To take care of yourself, to rest, so that you can be the best version of you for every other human. And soon, again, it will be time to get out, back on the street and to walk. And I hope that I will see you out there. And I promise to smile and say hi.